Welcome back. We are going to work on some shading techniques today. So I'm going to teach you guys how to do 4 different shading techniques. Start by drawing 4 rectangles, and we're going to draw a line down the middle. If some of my students are watching, they have definitely done this before. This has helped us learn some of the basics. So it's really cool if you do this with your families, guys. Teach them and they'll think you're a pro. So the first one I want to start with is going to be pointillism. So pointillism is just dots, and it's going from a dark to light. So I always like to start off light and then work darker, kind of opposite as we usually do. So right to left. So we're going to start with just a few dots, and we want to create a gradient. That means we want it to go from light to dark. We want them to kind of fade. So after that, we're going to do a few more, and they're going to get closer together. And a few more. And a Sharpie or a marker would work best. If you use a pencil, it's going to take a lifetime. And then last but not least, we're going to do a bunch. So I like to work in one area and then kind of go out is the easiest way. All right, so that's pointillism or stippling. The next one I'm going to actually use a pen for. So this is crosshatching. This one's pretty fun to do. All it is lines that crisscross. So we're going to do a few in the first one. And then we're going to do the same thing, except more lines in this one, closer together. So you should see it getting darker the more lines you put on here. And finally, the last one, and I'm going to do a different direction. So that's about it. So light to dark, and that is crosshatching. The next one I'm going to stick with my pen, and I want you to hold your pen closer to the ends up here, not to the point, because this is going to help you get the shape. And we want to do a figure 8 with our wrist, and we're going to keep it really light. Do not pick up your pen for this one. So this one is called gestural, and you're just keeping your pen down and moving your wrist. So for this one, the more squiggles you do, the darker it gets. So you're kind of building it up. And then last one. If you do too many swirls like this, it won't look as free as the others. It'll look more like you thought about it, which you don't really want. So just try to keep that figure 8 shape. The lines look a little more natural when you do it this way. And that's that. Then finally is my favorite. So we're going to go back to a pencil. And if you have a blending stump or some type of shading tool, you'll want to use it for this one. So for this technique, it's called tonal, and you want to hold your pencil almost flat against the table. And you want to try to get a sharp pencil. So I'm going to see if I have a better one that's a little sharper. So I'm going to hold it sideways, and I'm going to do it really lightly. Hopefully you guys can even see this. I always worry about pencil not showing very well. So start off light, and then you're going to press down a little bit harder on your pencil. And then a little bit harder. And then finally, We want this one to be really dark. All right, so if you want to get rid of some of these lines that we have going on, use your best tool, your finger. So once we have this, we're going to take our finger and just kind of smear those pencil lines, and you kind of get rid of them, and it kind of becomes like a matte shade. Oh, I hate the feeling of this. It burns. Just kidding. So we're gonna stay with that, and then we're gonna do some shapes to actually fill these in with. So I think a circle would be fun if we do practicing of our circles too. So do it really light. I'm just gonna draw 4 so we can practice all 4. Oh lordy, that circle is kind of crazy. All right, so those are my circles. So the first one, we're going to do our stippling. So when we shade, we need to think about a light source. So if the light's coming in from this direction, my window's right here, it's hitting my sphere right here on this point. And this side's going to be the darker area. So for all of these spheres, I'm going to make a highlight area. So I'm going to gently draw a circle that I want to keep white. So I'm going to stay out of that area when I'm shading. And I want my fade to kind of gradually get darker as we go away from the highlight. So anytime you have, and you kind of see my hand shadow right now, anytime you have light, the opposite is going to be where your shadow is. So the light's hitting on this side of my hand right now, and it's forcing the shadow on the opposite side of where the light's hitting. So think about that when you're doing this. So we're going back to our Sharpie, and we're going to do a bunch of dots starting on the edge here. So we're stippling, and we're kind of going in a crescent moon shape with all of these kind of shading techniques. So as we gradually get out of this crescent moon shape, we're going to get lighter and lighter with the amount of dots we're doing. So we're going to do a few out here. And my edges up here are going to always stay a little darker than the inside, just to find that form a little bit more. Do a few up here. This one probably takes the longest, but if you enjoy doing it, you can make some really cool stuff. And you can even use a thin Sharpie if you really have the patience. I can kind of fix my circle a little bit. I'm not the best at drawing circles, but it's for practice, so it doesn't have to be perfect. What I would do is kind of stand back from it and look at it, and then you can kind of see where your empty spots are that you need to make fade a little better. So my highlights here, so the darkest area needs to be on this side. So there is my spear. And I could keep going with that if I want, but I'm gonna stop there for right now. Next is my cross hatching. So I'm gonna stick with this area I have here. And I'm gonna kind of build it up. The same crescent moon shape is really gonna help me. The next layer though, I'm gonna do them a little more far apart when I do my lines. And that's gonna help lighten it up. And then I'm gonna stick over here on this area. And I really want this dark, so I'm gonna do as many different lines over here as I can. slowly I'm extending it more into the sphere shape. And I think I pretty much got that one. You can always do more. I'm kind of doing these little quick, but it's just for you guys to see. So the next one is gestural. So we want to hold back on our pen again. And this one might get a little crazy with the shape because we're doing all these funky shapes. But just try to stay in the form of the circle. So I'm getting crazy with my curly cues, my figure eights. I'm gonna do a few up here, and then we'll darken this area a little bit more. So keep that crescent shape the darkest. And I think that looks pretty good. So last but not least is the tonal. And I have a ton of stacks of paper under here, so it doesn't darken as best as it could. But for this, I like to shade with the form, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn my paper. And do the crescent moon shape. So we're shading along this circular shape. And we're staying with the crescent moon shape. And all along when you're shading this, I want you to stay with that kind of shading. It's a curve type shade. And we're coming up higher on the sides slowly. And however you want to hold your pencil, nobody really shades the same or draws the same. Everyone has their own style. So don't worry about the way you're holding your pencil. There's so many different ways. I have a friend who holds it like this. It's so crazy. And he knows who he is. Shout out. So once we have this, we're gonna take our finger and we're gonna blend it a little. If this really, some people hate the feeling of this like I do. If it really annoys you, get a tissue and wrap it around your finger, and then your finger doesn't get dirty either. And then we can always come back and make that highlight a little stronger and clean up our edges. I'm gonna add this a little darker on the edge here. And there we go. So that's just a little bit of some of the 4 shading techniques that I know of. There's definitely more out there, but these are the most basic, I would say, the most widely used. So try them out and then try it on some other images like your eye or your portrait, and I'm sure they'll turn out really awesome. So thanks for sticking in. Enjoy these little techniques, and hopefully they'll help you in the future.